Hello there. I'm doing something a little bit different today. I think the way I'm going to do this is I'll probably put this up on YouTube but it's just going to be audio only. So please feel free to listen to this while you are, I don't know, doing dishes or making dinner, or you know what? Even if you're just sitting around just existing, whatever feels right for you. I have been getting back into blogging this year, 2020. What a fucking year 2020 has been, to say the least. But so I've been doing a lot of writing. Some of you might come across this and maybe you only know me through my YouTube channel, which I don't do a lot with my YouTube channel. It's very few and far between for me to upload things here. So, just in case you are not aware, I do write blog posts every week. I have a mailing list, which has become my main way of connecting with people and sharing stuff about tarot and spirituality and personal growth and connecting with my community. So if that is of interest to you, and if you're not already, you can visit my website, carriemallon.com, and sign up for the mailing list, and you'll always know what's on my mind, for better or for worse. I felt called to share in a different way today. I'm not sure exactly why. It's just, you know, I don't have a plan for what I'm going to share here, but let me just start with this. It's quite windy outside. I'm sitting here in my little home office, which is one of my favorite places in the world, and something I'm so grateful to have, this little space that's for me and my work. It's really amazing that I have this. I love this room. And I'm looking out the window and just watching this tree and these leaves going, and there's like dust blowing up. I've been thinking a lot about the tower and this idea that it feels like collectively we're in this tower moment. Like I mentioned, 2020 being what a fucking year. Obviously, there's a pandemic going on, and I think that largely what the pandemic is, I mean, it's doing so many things, but one of the things that it's doing that's been on my mind so much lately is bringing the dust up of so many other things in our systems and in our ways of living that we're already cracking, we're already flawed, we're already unjust, and it's making those issues that much worse, and it's making us that much more aware of those things. So I don't know exactly where I'm going with this, but something about this resonance between watching the wind and having the dust blow up in a very real way in the physical world around me, that feels like this metaphor for what's been happening in maybe like a spiritual, emotional way in the world at large, with just things feeling very shaken up. It feeling like there's like a lot of dust flying around, and it's quite unsettling. Some of us are obviously experiencing it in very different ways than others. Like, I have definitely been thinking a lot about my privilege and my luck. I already mentioned luck a little bit, talking about the fact that I have a place to live, and I still have, my health and somewhat of a sense of security in this situation. And even just talking about that, it's putting this lump in my throat because I'm very aware that not everybody has that, and it's hard to even think about how to process that, or like what we can do about that as a society. Yeah, it's been difficult. I can't even imagine what it must be like for people who are from communities who are more marginalized, othered, oppressed, whatever. I don't know the correct terminology to use, so forgive me if I'm stumbling over how to share that, but yeah, it's making me emotional trying to talk about this, and I don't even really know how to talk about what I'm trying to say, but maybe it makes sense on some level. I'm drinking tea. I have infused some lemon balm and some mint that are particularly special to me because these I grew in my yard. Another thing that I'm lucky and grateful to have, a little bit of green space outside. So I grew these and I dried them last season, and today I infused some of them into a tea. I've been feeling really drawn to plants lately. Some of you, if you follow me on Instagram, a couple of weeks ago, I talked about harvesting nettle. I also have nettle that I grow in my yard. And I harvested some nettle a couple of weeks ago, and I've harvested nettle before and used it for making infusions, but I had never actually eaten nettle. So I did that for the first time a couple of weeks ago, and it was not exactly a huge success. The taste of it is something that I need to get used to, but maybe that's, I don't know, that's another metaphor for, I don't know what exactly, but just this idea that when we move into new ways of being, when we try new things, especially things that are maybe more wild than the things we're used to, sometimes it does take time for us to I don't even know the word I'm looking for, to kind of grow into that when we're used to things that are more, like regimented and more within the systems that we've all been living within. I really don't know if anything I'm talking about today is going to make any sense because, as you can probably tell, going back to what I talked about earlier about the dust, that's very much where I feel. I feel like there's just so many fragments of ideas and thoughts and things that are sitting in my heart and my mind, and it's hard to know how to sort through them. I'm still just watching the wind, and it's also making me think about there's so many weird tensions and paradoxes that are coming up, at least for me lately, and it feels this way with when I talk to my clients and when I talk to people I know, through the tarot community on social media and things like that, that there's so many strange things coexisting together at once. So another thing about, dust being blown up and this idea of being in a tower moment, in I don't want to act like I don't want to bypass the very real struggles of that. Like I talked about earlier, I'm actually in a lot of ways lucky that some of those struggles don't hit me as hard as they do other people. So I don't want to act like this is a great thing that this is happening, because I don't believe that. But at the same time, there's that paradox that there's that part of me that thinks and knows that this is a catastrophe in many ways. But then there is this part of me that maybe sees that some parts of this needed to happen. And I do have a lot of fear right now because I want to believe, as Mulder would say, I want to believe. I want to believe that all of the cracks in the systems that are being exposed, that we'll see those and we'll find a way forward to continue to direct ourselves towards healing those and doing the very hard work of fixing some of the issues with our society. But I struggle with believing that. So it's a strange place. I'm trying to be in the energy of hope, but this is something I think about a lot, that hope is a complicated thing. It's very complicated to be in that place. So yeah, I'm kind of getting a little all over the place with how I'm talking about this. This is, by the way, one of the reasons that I write more than I speak. It is definitely easier for me to get my thoughts in a row when I'm writing. But yeah, maybe that also ties into that kind of this dust shaking up thing, because sometimes I feel like I need to get out of my ingrained habits and I need to do something different, which is one of the reasons I wanted to do an audio thing today. A while ago, I had a podcast called Key Finding. I still occasionally get people messaging me saying that they really liked that podcast and asking if I would think about bringing it back, which is really sweet because it's been probably, I don't know, maybe 2 years, I think, something like that, since I stopped the podcast, and it was pretty short-lived, but there are things that I miss about sharing in that format. I listen to a lot of podcasts when I'm out walking my dog and when I'm cooking dinner and when I'm doing pretty much anything. I listen to podcasts. And I was listening to one of my favorite podcasts. It's called To the Best of Our Knowledge. I think it was an older episode, but it was about the human voice. And one of the things they talked about is how many years of evolution have gone into the way that we connect with each other's voices. So, as much as I love writing, and as much as I feel like that's sort of where my main strength is with communicating, sometimes I feel really drawn to using my voice and listening to other people's voices because it's really true. We have evolved for hundreds of thousands of years to pick up so much subtle information through each other's voices. That's another reason, if you've been hanging around me for a while, you may have heard me share some of my complicated thoughts on social media. But it's one of the reasons that social media kind of bums me out because it seems like, and I know that this is kind of just the natural progression of where we are with our technology, that communicating through written text behind a screen on a platform owned by a large corporation who is who we are the product, right? They're selling our data for advertising. That's where we are, that's kind of become the main way we stay in touch with each other and that we share ideas. And there's a lot of good things about social media, don't get me wrong. I do think that, I mean, I've made friends on social media. I've been able to share my work to some degree on social media. I'm not trying to just say it is a shit show, but it is a shit show in some ways. I think we all have experienced that. That's just one of the things that bums me out about it is we have all of these important conversations about issues in the world and they're taking place like we're behind a screen in our home typing and someone else is reading that and typing back to us. I guess, yeah, again, I'm not sure how to make the connection, but what I'm trying to say is I miss the days when we talked to each other more and used our voices and listened to other people's voices. I know we do some of that on the internet, and I'm not trying to be like, one of those people who always, because every time a new technology has come in throughout history, even like when books first started existing, there were people who were like, books are going to ruin our society. So I don't want to go down that way of thinking about it, but yeah, it is just, it's kind of, there's some things about it that are very much less than ideal. I have noticed that since the pandemic started happening and since we've been doing this physical distancing, I'm trying to remind myself to say that. I know, social distancing is the official term, but a lot of people have been sort of reminding us that that's not what we're doing. We're not trying to socially isolate from each other. We're just trying to physically stay away from each other for our safety, which is a whole other thing. Right, a whole other complicated thing that not everybody can do that, and that brings up all kinds of issues in our society as well. But the point I was trying to get to relating to the social media thing is it seems like a lot of us are turning even more to social media right now because we're kind of forced, or I don't want to say forced, we're choosing to be away from each other as much as possible because we care about each other. So it's like this double-edged sword because in some ways maybe that does help us be connected during a weird time. But maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm just putting this out there as a reminder, like you can still call people, you can maybe, I know it feels a little weird. Like I'm a millennial. So I exist right on the borderline of like, I remember when talking on the phone was a big thing. Like when I was in high school, it would always be talking on the phone to your friends if you weren't hanging out with them in person, or talking on the phone to the person you're romantically, interested in at the moment, kind of having a little flirty conversation. So I can remember the days of like the phone being a really key way we connect. And if you're listening to this and you're kind of younger than me, it's sort of strange because you might have had a very different experience of the world in general. But, anyways, yeah, this whole thing is just me rambling. But the point is, if you are feeling kind of lonely and also, like me, feeling somewhat conflicted about social media, maybe remember that you can call people and you can hear their voices, and that can be a really nice thing. Another of the many things that have been on my mind. I know this is going to be all over the place, but maybe I should quit saying that. We just need to roll with it. Like, if you've made it this far, you're in it. But I've been thinking about the idea of what is home. Because this has been a year of trying to be at home more if you are able to do so. And it kind of ties into this conversation about social media because, in a lot of ways, I know we do live on the internet. The internet kind of is home. Social media can be home. But at least for me, and I guess I'm just presenting this as something to think about if it happens to resonate with you, I've been thinking about what aspects of the internet, what aspects of social media am I living in right now, especially in this time of having the intention to be at home. What parts am I going to of the internet that actually don't resonate for me as being home? And I'm not sure if this will make any sense, but it's so easy on the internet to get down rabbit holes. It's so easy on the internet to have your attention taken over by something that, in the truest level, in the depths of your being, you don't even care about. It's just a distraction. I'm not saying that it can't ever be healthy to have distractions. Sometimes distractions are a gift, but it's also, at least for me, too easy to get sucked into things on the internet that don't feel like home. So I'm thinking about what is home to me, even beyond the physical place that I live. What else feels like home? And how can I get more clear about those things, define those things for myself, and continue to have the intention that I'm spending my time feeling at home. It reminds me a little of my dear friend Annie, the illustrator of our deck, The Spacious Tarot. She made this little like zine a few years ago called Finding Home. So she was also using that metaphor of home as more than a physical dwelling, but home being a place within you, a place within your heart and your mind that is true, that is welcoming, that is allowing space for all the complications and all the contradictions and all of the shadows and all of the light and all of the parts of who you are. So that's what I want to find right now and continue to sink into is home, that home within myself. That's of course different for everyone, but some of the specific things for me that bring me into that sense of home are spending time with plants, which I already talked about earlier, drinking tea, being outside as much as possible, listening to the wind, which I've talked about a couple of times today, and being here in my office right next to me. I have a bookshelf full of all of my tarot books and books about astrology and my tarot decks. And there's a crate at the bottom of my bookshelf with a bunch of art supplies. And there's like jars of herbs on the shelf that I just didn't really have another place to fit. They don't probably really, I was going to say they don't belong on the bookshelf, but you know what? That's what this bookshelf is it's like my magical, witchy, woo-woo, wonderful collection of things. So I think they do belong here. And these are all things that connect me with that sense of home within myself. This reminds me, another podcast I've been listening to a lot lately is called Make Me Smart. I've been listening to this one for a couple of years. It's absolutely outside of the realm that I normally live in of like witchiness. It's very practical. The two hosts of the podcasts are NPR journalists, but they give so much great information. And with this whole COVID-19 situation, they've been doing daily shows, and it's one of the best avenues I found out there for actually understanding as much as we can, because there's so many complications to this situation. But they draw attention to a lot of aspects of this situation that I think are the most important, or at least very important to consider. So I really recommend it. If that's of interest to you, check it out. One of the hosts lately keeps repeating her mantra she's taken on lately is walk on by the crazy. And maybe there's other ways we could phrase that, because I know a lot of people aren't really cool with the word crazy. Walk on by or go right past the absurd. Maybe that's a way we could say it. Go right past the absurd. I think this applies to the conversation I was having earlier about the internet, and it maybe applies to this idea of finding home as well. That there's so much noise out there and so much absurd stuff going on. I think there is a time and a place for us to not move right past that. Sometimes we do have to challenge when people are presenting messages that are harmful or somehow like really problematic. Like, yeah, we do need to confront those, but oftentimes we need to just move on by. And it's kind of like, the old saying, not my circus, not my monkeys. It's not part of my home. It's not something that I need to be holding space for. It's not something that I am going to be well served, or the world is going to be well served by me investing my attention and my energy to. So I've been trying to take that on board for myself, sometimes with better luck than other times, but just, move on by the absurd. Because apparently that's how I'm phrasing it for myself. Move on by the absurd. I think the last thing I'll do while I have you here today, and first of all, thank you so much for being here. I hope something in my ramblings will at least give you something to think about, give you a little bit of company for wherever you are on your journey right now. But of course, it feels like I'm a tarot reader. So it feels like a great way to wrap up would be pulling a couple of tarot cards and just seeing what messages come forward with them. So I have in my hands one of my many Waite-Smith tarot variations. This is a little bridge size one, so it's kind of like I have to recalibrate my hands as I'm shuffling it because it's not standard tarot size, which is what I'm used to. So I'm gonna do a couple more shuffles here and just ask to be guided to some cards and messages that will be in alignment with the highest good for myself and for whoever happens to hear this message. Okay, so let's see what we have here. Here we got the Five of Pentacles and the Star. Oh my gosh. So the Five of Pentacles, I feel like I've just been seeing this card so much lately. In fact, I want to give a shout out to one of my close tarot friends, Shona. She's at Shona, Shonna, on Instagram. Some of you probably know her. She posted a little mini reading just yesterday on her Instagram TV, and she drew the Five of Pentacles. She was actually using the Spacious Tarot, which is my deck. I have been thinking so much about some of the things that she shared about the Five of Pentacles, and so it's just funny seeing this card here again today. Of course, kind of the obvious thing with the Five of Pentacles, this is from my perspective, but fives are In all of the minor arcana suits, the fives have some level of turbulence or struggle to them. And then we have Pentacles, which is the material realm. So it makes sense with our current situation, with so many of us being concerned about our physical well-being, our financial well-being, our having our basic needs met. That's a lot of the Five of Pentacles kinds of themes. And I don't want to put words into Shona's mouth, so you should just, right after you finish listening to this, go watch her reading on Instagram TV. But part of what I got out of the message that she shared with the Five of Pentacles is there can be a reminder in this card that sometimes we have more ability than we are realizing to take a little better care of ourselves physically and provide ourselves a little better sense of safety. So I don't want to say this in a way of bypassing the external factors that are very real, but at least for me, this card feels like a reminder that I've really been neglecting my physical movement. Physical movement is something that for me is so essential to my overall well being. It's not something that I do to try to like get ripped or look amazing. It's something I do because it feels good to move my body, and my brain and my soul feel so much better when I'm exercising in some way. So that's part of what this card is bringing up for me, and maybe that's a message for some of you as well. Like, are there things that help you feel better physically that maybe you haven't been giving as much nurturing to as you could? And can you bring some more nurturing into those things? Can you ask yourself to make more space for those things in your life? To me, that ties in really nicely with the star, because there's this other thing that this isn't always where I go with the Five of Pentacles, but I guess I must have read this somewhere like when I first started reading tarot, and it's always kind of stuck in the back of my mind that occasionally the Five of Pentacles comes up as a reminder to us that we may be placing too much importance on the physical realm and maybe not honoring or nurturing enough of the spiritual realm. So that's kind of something that comes to mind to me seeing this card paired with the star. There's such a connection with the star. There's such an energy of healing. There's such an energy of being plugged into this magical force that is, yes, it's part of the physical reality, but it also transforms the physical reality. And probably part of why this line of thinking is coming up for me is it's really it ties into a lot of the things I was talking about earlier about finding a sense of home within yourself. And this Five of Pentacles could tie into that idea of like, what are the things on the internet or in other aspects of your life that maybe you could choose to diverge your attention away from because they don't feel like home. They feel, they make you feel like an outsider. They make you feel like an outcast. So yeah, it's getting a little bit rambly, but hopefully that connects on some level. There's also this thing about hope with the star. It's funny because I mentioned the tower earlier, and something that I think about a lot with the tower is that the star sequentially, the way the major arcanas are numbered, the star comes after the tower. It always reminds me of the Nietzsche quote, "You must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star." So chaos is not a bad thing. Chaos doesn't always feel pleasant, and chaos can be very unnerving, but maybe we can find ways to channel our chaos towards giving birth, or not giving birth, towards creating, that's the word I want, a dancing star. What is this dancing star that's coming forward within you at this time? Okay, I am going to leave it there for now. So again, thank you for sharing some time with me. Please take care of yourself, take care of other people as much as you can, and I will talk to you next time.